G'day, Tom Garman, Sales Representative, Apex Results Realty, located in Burlington, Ontario. I operate in Ontario from Grimsby to the west, all the way through to West Mississauga. Today's post is on seller property information statements. This is a 3-page document. There are 3 different sections: general, environmental, and structural. And this came out several years ago. The idea was the seller would fill this information in advance before listing the property for sale. That was the idea. So when a buyer came in, 3 pages would be pulled out. Yes, we've accepted the offer, or we're negotiating the offer. Here you go, and you'd have full disclosure of all facts about a property. There were some problems. People were not necessarily always truthful. Someone may not have lived there for very, very long and not be aware that there was knob and tube wiring. Or they may not remember that the electrical service is only a 60 amp service. So they would fill it in. And there are 4 sections on every question. Has this property ever had urea formaldehyde insulation? Yes, no, unknown, not applicable. So if I'm taking a buyer out and we see this, and it's a detached house, let's say in Hamilton or Burlington, and is there urea formaldehyde insulation? Yes. Well, hopefully we can find it so we know about this up front. How old is it? We do our background checking, due diligence to make sure everything's all right. No, there is none. Well, given the age of the property, there could have been. So maybe it was remediated or just removed, or they may never have put any in. Unknown. How old is the house? Now at this point, I'm going to rely on the home inspector because there could be, given the age of the property. Same way if I saw aluminum wiring, knob and tube, old enough property could still have 60 amp service, possible, or so on. So what does this mean to a buyer? If you say there's no problem, and the home inspector goes through and does not catch anything because lead pipes are behind walls, the insulation is not obvious, the knob and tube wiring that's in the property may well be buried behind the wall, and the only place it's been upgraded is where it comes in. It's possible. Same with aluminum. Oh, there's a little bit of aluminum, just 2 or 3 strands, and eventually when the panel comes off the electric box, you're taking a look at it and saying, oh, this service looks like it's pretty much all aluminum on the inside of the property. That becomes a problem. Because now, as a buyer, that person is relying on the information filled in here. Now, to make sure that the paperwork was done correctly, it is not a check the box, yes, no, unknown, or applicable. The seller is supposed to actually initial every single box. Yes, no, unknown, not applicable. So, sellers, my recommendation to you, and I am not speaking as a lawyer, I am only speaking as a realtor. Because of the problems that have happened in past and some of the concerns, and I'm not even looking at ethical concerns about maybe there's a strand of aluminum in this house, we haven't gone through the whole place. I don't remember what the home inspector said when we purchased. It's something about electrical. 1, do not fill in this form. If you have a defect or if there's some sort of concern, aluminum wiring, the age of the roof, there's an old oil tank buried out back, disclose it. This house has 100 amp service and has some aluminum wiring. Disclose that in writing to your realtor if you know it's there. If you do not know, and this comes out during the home inspection, verify it, of course, just to make sure everything's on the up and up, and then turn around. You now have to renegotiate because there's something about the house that's not 100% for a potential buyer. Buyers, if you have a concern about a property and they have an SPIS, absolutely, 100% read it, go over it, ask questions. Most people will be very straightforward and will disclose any problems. That $200,000 house in a $289,000 neighborhood may have 60 amp service, knob and tube, fuses, some aluminum updates. It could have a buried oil tank out back. It may still be running on oil for the furnace, which in this area is not common at all. You can have a rental air conditioner, the roof may need replacement, there could be a basement leak. All those things together add up to a good bit of money and indicate that the $209,000 property, again in a $289,000 area, has something going on. And most of these problems, should be obvious during a home inspection. So, buyer, if they have it, great. It is only a piece of paper that's been initialed off and signed off on. If you still have concerns, home inspection. If you have additional concerns, due diligence means that you need to do more digging on the property. That's why you have a realtor. Personally, my due diligence has taken me to City Hall, talking to neighbors, talking to the local police, fire departments, and a number of other things over the years, including going and tracking down a few renovation companies that have done some work for people. Doesn't happen often. Most people are very straightforward. Now, seller, 100%, absolutely 100% follow this piece of advice. Your basement had a leak 5 years ago, let's say. You brought a company in, they did out the backyard, they parged, they changed the weeping tile, they filled it back in again, and you've never had a problem. Disclose. Now, the disclosure itself can happen in advance, or it can happen during the offer negotiation. And by the way, here are my receipts, which you've kept. Here's the warranty from the company for 10 years. It is not a problem if it's fixed. Hiding things though, when it comes out, and some of your neighbors will make a comment, oh, do you know about that leak? It was horrific back then. It means that they will panic and worry a little bit. Disclose and answer. Get rid of the fear before it comes in and before it becomes a problem. Oh my gosh, we moved in 6 months later, the basement was leaking from the same spot. All right, no problem. This was the company, they're reputable, and let's go after them. It's transferable warranty. So you need to contact these people and tell them, you know, the basement leaks. And then the company goes back in. And of course, a buyer at that point who's purchased the property will have to go back and forth a little bit. But then when they come in and fix it, they are covered. And you as a seller are covered. Because if you do not disclose problems and it becomes obvious this is an ongoing problem previously, leaky basement is always a good choice as an example. Then the buyer, who could be looking at $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in repairs, is more than likely going to be contacting that seller and taking them to court. So, sellers, seller property information statement, leave it alone. Right there, leave it alone. Just in case some of the information you have is not correct, or you've only been there for a short time, 3 or 4 years. 2, disclose anything that's happened. We had the windows replaced 9 years ago. The roof was redone 4 years ago. The basement bathroom and the rec room were put in 3.5 years ago. We had a leak in the basement in the front corner here, and here's a picture we took of it at the time. That was 8 years ago. The company fixed it. A year later, there was a little bit of moisture in there, and they came back and discovered it is not coming from their repair. It was a little bit further off. We had them fix that. Problem is done. We have never had a leak in the basement in 7 years. Buyers, if you have a concern, if there are a lot of grow-ups in an area, just as an example, or you're concerned about construction going on, especially in a new subdivision, how much longer is the new construction with the heavy machinery going to be going on? Ask questions. Do your due diligence. Mr. Home Seller, do you know? No? Does the City Hall know? Talk to the building company. if you're in an area where you have a lot of new building going on, and have a home inspection. Use every tool you have to make sure that you know what is going on with the property you're purchasing. Seller property information statement was a very good tool, misunderstood, and a few people abused it, and there were problems and complications because it needed to be evaluated, and some of the wording has changed over the years on some of these questions, and the best answer today is do not use it. Buyer, the question, put it in the offer. Do not rely, and this goes for both sellers and buyers, on anything during contract negotiation that is in a verbal presentation. Okay? If I tell you the roof is 8 years old, if it's not in writing someplace, whether it be in the listing, whether it be on the offer, somewhere else, it's not real. And if you do ever have to go to court and say these people were not honest, or they should have known the fact that there's a family of raccoons and skunks and squirrels, quite a large family obviously, and they're under the house in a crawl space, and we found traps. Okay? They said there was no problem. There's no SPIS, and it's all verbal. Verbal is bad in contract negotiating. Now on the flip side, most people out there are very straightforward. If they do say it, they do not mean to lie to you later on. They may forget. Right? So, sellers, SPIS, don't use it. Disclose everything up front. Be honest. If there's a defect or problem with the property, fix it. And if you cannot afford to fix it, drop your price and tell people about it so they know they're purchasing a property that needs $10,000 worth of work. Will you have a harder sale? Yes. Or if an offer firms up, have a quote or 3 quotes in place and ask the potential buyer, I know you may not have the money to purchase this first time home. When you firm up, we will have the work done within this time frame. By this company, this price, warranty goes to you, everything else. So, buyers, SPIS. Don't fully rely on it. If you have a specific question, ask. If you do get an SPIS and they've said no, you still need to do your due diligence check. All right? Real estate is the biggest investment you're ever going to make. It is important to make sure that you are protected, and just waving off an SPIS or ignoring it or basing all of your decisions on it, either way, not a good choice. Double check, triple check. Anyone can make a mistake. Anyway, that's a seller property information statement. I hope you got some value out of this and understand a little bit more about some of the potential problems and pitfalls and traps that can happen with a seller property information statement. Anyway, you have yourself a great day. Take care, and remember, stay positive.